Okay, now we're going to go ahead and take a look at osmoregulation in vertebrates. We'll start with the elasmobranchs, the sharks, skates, rays, and ratfishes. So they have a true kidney. So we finally got complex enough where we're going to call them a true kidney. It's a fairly simple kidney compared to ours, but it's still a kidney. Elasmobranchs are generally isoosmotic with their environment. So they actually have very porous skin in terms of water, so water can freely pass back and forth. And so they maintain an osmotic concentration in their bodies that matches the surroundings. And the way they do this is, instead of just getting really salty, is they retain a fair amount of urea in their blood. And urea is actually poisonous in high concentrations. So they also maintain a concentration of TMAO, trimethylamine oxide. And what this does is this keeps the urea from being poisonous, so it makes it much less toxic. Elasmobranchs also have a rectal gland. This is a small organ that branches off the end of the digestive system, and it secretes ions. So as they take on excessive ions from their surroundings, from the marine environment, most all elasmobranchs are marine, this rectal gland will pump these ions out so they can get rid of them. So in this drawing of a shark dissected, this long incision's been along the ventral surface. We can see down towards the cloaca. You can see it's labeled as rectum and colon. There's this little branch that comes off the rectal gland, and that's what pumps ions out. All right, freshwater bony fishes. So think of the redfin fishes that live in fresh water. They have kidneys. They are hyperosmotic to their surroundings, so the fresh water around them has a much lower osmotic concentration. So they will continuously produce dilute urine. They're constantly taking on extra water from their surroundings at their gills. So their kidneys keep producing very dilute urine to get rid of that extra water. And at the gills, they can absorb ions. So even though they live in fresh water, there are some ions in the water. And so the gills are pumping these ions into their body. So here's a drawing representing a freshwater fish. They are constantly taking on water at their gills and losing ions at their gills. And they'll get rid of that extra water by producing lots of dilute urine, and the gills will actively pump these ions back into the body. All right, saltwater redfin fishes. They have kidneys. They're now hypoosmotic to their surroundings. So the surroundings is more concentrated than they are, and so they have sort of the reverse challenges that freshwater bony fishes have. So they actually produce very little urine. The last thing they want to do is lose water, lose more water, because the surroundings is constantly trying to suck the water out of their bodies. And they will secrete excessive ions at their gills. So, sort of the opposite again from freshwater fishes. But what's really kind of interesting about this is that marine fishes generally drink seawater. Right? If humans tried to do this, it would be a huge tax on our system, and we would actually die. It would make us go a little crazy, and then our nervous system would shut down, and we would not be able to survive. But saltwater fishes drink seawater. They pump the salts into their body, which is sort of, again, opposite of what you would think they would want, since they're already getting too many ions. But they do that to allow the water to follow. So then the water diffuses into their body following those ions. And then they can get rid of those excessive ions through their gills, and they try to hold on to as much of that water as they can, even though some of that water does leak out through their gills. All right, amphibians. They have kidneys. They use their skin also for osmoregulation. Through their skin, they can absorb ions from their environment. And amphibians are generally hyperosmotic to their surroundings. So amphibians are either terrestrial or freshwater. There are very few examples of amphibians living in saltwater. So they generally produce dilute urine, just like we saw with freshwater fishes. Get rid of that excess water that they take on from their environment. And they can secrete ions at their gills. All right, let's look at the amniotes. So now we're talking about reptiles, birds, and mammals. So they have kidneys. They can be either hyper or hypoosmotic to their environment. And so they can produce either dilute or concentrated urine. So the kidneys found in amniotes are much more complex than we've seen so far. And this is a drawing of a mammalian kidney, and it could represent a human kidney, for instance. And the kidneys are made up of a series of nephrons, these tubules, that allow the body to produce either dilute urine or concentrated urine, depending on what the body needs.